gals, welcome back to another Director's Cut. So it is December, and we are all just enjoying family, holidays, traditions, all that good stuff. Last month we talked about gratitude. This month we're going to talk about stress and anxiety. I actually think it's a perfect topic for December.
It is.
So we love the holidays. We love them.
Mm-hmm.
But let's face it, it's quite stressful. So let's open it up and chat about that.
Yeah. I think
I like the assumption that we're all enjoying the time with our family. I think is the first thing. Well, yes, I
Depends
think
on the
most of the time you do enjoy the holidays because you do get to see people you haven't always seen, and I have broadened my scope of what I call family, which is I think probably why I do enjoy spending time with my family. But it's interesting because I think families also, we're all on our best behavior when we get together. We try to make it a moment. We have this, there's a pressure to it. And that is part of the stress and anxiety to make it, as a mom when you were little, you want it to be magical. You want it to be perfect for your children. Your first Christmas, how much stress was there?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. So.
Yeah.
But I almost think on the flip side too, because that was one of the things that could be a point of stress and anxiety was knowing that you were going to have all of those people in the same room. You knew not everyone agreed, and that 9 times out of 10 you're going to have someone mad out on the front porch, and having to deal with that, or the stress of just a certain dynamic, because like with my family it's ebbed and flowed, and over the last, especially pre-COVID, but even during COVID, it's been a little, actually probably less stressful because there's less expectations.
Yeah.
Because people were like, no, please don't come.
Yeah.
Whereas previous to that, we're dealing with, I love my nephew. Is he going to show up? Is he going to try and steal? Is he going to cause problems? And so there's always that dynamic too of like the unknown factors that you kind of anticipate. You don't want to manifest it to being reality, but people's habits and track records sometimes prove to be a certain way.
But it's interesting because I think you said post-COVID has changed, and I look at the last couple of years, and I actually feel like our Christmas, maybe I should take a poll of my family and see if they agree, but I've enjoyed them a lot more, but they have been significantly more casual, significantly more relaxed, and the expectation is much more almost just enjoying the fact that we can be together because we couldn't for 2 years, and that we also then learned in those 2 years that maybe we don't need to go over the top, and maybe the magic is that everyone is there. And then I'll be honest, that actually created anxiety for me, is do I have to make up for those last 2 years? So
I have to say, for me, it's like in my family, being a single mom with 2 kids, and I always worked in medical, so it's always 24/7. So I always ended up either picking up a shift because I wanted to make extra money, or being, having to do that. And then just that kind of stress as the parent, like making the perfect Christmas. But I think, or the thing that I've kind of stressed with my children is that it's not about necessarily the day, it's the quality of the time that you do get to spend together. So whether it is the actual day, it might be the day before or the day after, depending on whatever the situation is, we do our best to do it, and it's okay. And because just in life, not everything goes the way that it should be. Sometimes it does, but things happen, but that moment with you or your family member or your children will always still be there. So that's what I feel like I'm trying to stress on them, the importance of just that family and connection, and not necessarily the action or the thing of it, is the time being able to spend with them. And Christmas doesn't mean it's not Christmas if it's not on Christmas Day.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Or a holiday kind of thing, because I know. I mean, as kids, when you have children, they're like, "Oh, Christmas is this day, and you have to have this." But it's this day, my day. I mean, yes.
I'm saying not for us.
You know, I mean, or any holiday in general. That's just how it's been in my house, in my household. So I think the importance of the family and trying not to stress about, because everything in life isn't perfect. So trying not to stress on that is just.
I think more and more looking at it too for us, we look at it as my family takes Christmas a little extreme. We do a lot of Christmas trees. When I say a lot, we have 12 or so in our house, all themed. It takes us a few days. But we actually kind of look more at a holiday season. And we actually start back in October because my husband goes insane during Halloween. Our house is ridiculous. And we have certain traditions. And I have found, and thankfully as the boys have grown, we had, the teenage years where, do we have to? Do we want in? But now as they're getting into like young adult, early 20s, they've changed the stress of it. Because they actually now are like, well, wait, what do you mean we didn't do that? We have to go do these things. And it's a different kind of stress now that they're older. Because it's no longer making it perfect. It's keeping it going, keeping that moment. But I have found that stretching it out as a season as opposed to trying to get that day. Especially as you've got mixed families. You got to go different places. You can't be everywhere.
Yeah.
A lot of those pressures and stress comes externally from what other people are going to bring to the table or what they're going to put on you. But most of my pressure is from myself. That I've got all these to-dos and I make my lists and I want to have these foods and these special recipes and presents and make sure everyone feels loved by the, not maybe the exact amount of money or presents, but the amount of love that we need to. How do you measure that? But, I'm just like, is it good? Will everyone be happy? It's a lot of pressure to try to say I'm responsible for someone's happiness on this day. So I think I put that on myself. So I've taken in the last few years, my kids are all in their 20s now. So just to ask them, which traditions are must have for you?
Yes.
Like, no one wants fudge. I'm not going to make it.
Right.
But if you want it, I'm happy to make it. So, which of these recipes should we do? And now they have their own homes. Do you want to make any? Or you want to come here and make them with me in like good old times? Or, so like really having that open discussion with what do we want for food and,
That's what we found the first year that we were married was, it's probably the first couple of years that we were married with the little kids being the only ones with the babies. Like nobody else had babies, just me and Alex. And then, so everybody wants to see the babies. And for the first couple of years, we actually did that. We lived up to everybody's expectations of, you got to be here, you got to be here, you got to be here. And we were exhausted. And we finally, I think Bianca was probably about 3 when we finally drew the line. We were like, no. We've got a screaming baby coming. We've got all the stuff you guys are buying for the kids, which thank you, by the way, but also we can't fit it in our car. We are going to be here. And we also we're like, you know what? We're taking back our Christmas. This, we now have our own family and we're going to make our own traditions. And, if you guys want to come see us, you're welcome to come and do this with us. But we are no longer living up to everybody else's expectations. And from that, we do the same thing with our kids. Now that they're older adults, we okay, what are the traditions that you want us to do? And it's always amazing to me, the things they actually want to go do. They're not expensive, they're not difficult, but yet I could stress out and do all these things. And it's not even the thing that they want. My daughter just wants to go look at Christmas lights and, have hot cocoa. And, we used to make it kind of like we'd give a golden ticket. You just made it really special. And they still want that. At 24, she still wants that.
The golden ticket.
Yeah, exactly.
I do question, most of us, our kids are more grown. But those even with littles.
Yeah.
Why not ask them to?
Yeah. I mean, look at that stinking elf on the shelf right now. I feel like that's a lot of stress.
I'll be honest, I'm so thankful that was not a thing.
Me too.
Because I would have been that parent that was up all night,
so
stressed
much.
out because it has to be perfect and you have to have the right thing and then you explain. Yeah, but
Yeah.
what if then you have to explain it? Now you're like, do I lie to the kid and just be like, look, I fell asleep and I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what do you
Right.
say? And now you've
No.
created just you've added to your already stressful time.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess question would be to kind of like add on to this is like, what are ways you guys deal with the stress and the anxiety? Because it's one thing we're all just admit like we have it for whatever the reason,
Right.
Mhm.
but like how do you circumvent it so that you're not like going to bed crying?
Right. Every night.
I think it's like
Yeah.
childbirth. I forget each year.
Exactly.
And then I go, oh yeah, it seemed like a good
Second it
idea.
again.
Yes. Why are we doing this?
I think
Yeah.
for me, how I get through it is when I know it's coming. So there is a little bit of prep. I found that I prep a little earlier every year. Like we're already talking about, you know, birthdays for the next year, and then that quickly gets into Christmas for even the next year. And as they get older, their presents are not as easy as let's go down aisle 5 at Walmart and pick up every Lego there is. Although I still can buy my boys Legos.
Yeah.
But I think I plan ahead a little bit more.
Sure.
And I have been actively involving everyone else in it. Purposely trying to say, because I do also want the traditions that we have to go with them in some format. I don't know that they'll be the same. My traditions are not exactly the same as what my parents did done for us, but I want some of that to go forward with them, and having them participate in it, I hope will make that.
Yeah.
So that's so far the best I've found. Still stressful.
It's good.
Yeah, I think having them participate is a good idea too, because I started doing that, and just asking them kind of what they wanted versus me trying to figure it out, because then I get mad because I do the surprise gift, but then it's not what they actually wanted, you know, and then but really sometimes doing an activity versus an actual gift. I mean, that is a gift of time and spending time and doing things as a family versus like something like here's your piece of foil that you wanted. I mean, I don't know. That's a very bad example, but like doing a trip or going to, doing like zoo lights or doing activities or doing that kind of thing. I've always felt like we always used to do Peacock Lane and we had more fun doing that than some of the other things, because those are the experiences that we enjoy and remember to do. So.
And some of the other stuff, sorry, jumping in again, but some of the other stuff doesn't even register with kids and people around you. You might have put so much time and energy in, and it's like, that joke about, well, they got the box, I got this amazing gift, but they played with the box,
Right.
Or even more so, and not that it's about the recognition, but understanding what goes into it. We bought the boys, they were little, not little, but younger, and we got them a PlayStation. And this was right in that is Santa real kind of phase. And I kid you not, they go, well, Santa must be real because, Mom and Dad would never do this for us.
Oh.
And it was just kind of like, at that point you kind of go, is the tradition really,
Right.
And once they understood, it actually took away from it for them. They were like, oh, you could see there was a disappointment that was, they weren't able to say, hey, thanks, Mom and Dad. That kind of a thing. So,
Yeah.
a little different.
We've always been tradition questioners for a lot of those reasons. Alex grew up very poor. And one of the things that he remembers as a kid was that his parents would always end up getting them the socks, the underwear, the stuff they needed.
Yeah.
Right. And Santa Claus always brought the big gift. And for him, he was like, excuse me, but hell no. I'm not going to do that. He was like, I am going to be the one that is able to get my kids the gift that they want. And
Santa can bring the socks.
Right. And so just
They're made by elves still, it's okay.
Yeah. But I think the big thing that we've done with our relationship, our kids, is we've just looked at the traditions and like, okay, what is the purpose behind this? What do we want to do? How do we want to do this? And I think that has really helped us to eliminate a lot of the stress. I mean, seriously, the amount. And I think to what you were saying earlier, it's, oh, great, we got this great Pinterest picture of the elf, but the rest of everything else sucked. You know, like who
Right.
cares that you got that picture when everything else sucked? Like, how about we focus on that tradition and how we want that to look and how we want to do that. And then we're fully aware too, like our kids will have their own traditions and how we can, you know, how can we support them in that versus, yes, we would love to have some of those traditions go and however they decide to do that, but then also recognizing that they need to be able to have the space to make their own traditions and encourage that. And so I think we've just never been that like married to traditions. And I actually think that has helped us a ton because they're always changing.
And I don't know about anyone else sitting at the table, but I'm not surprised. But I do think that's part of what needs to be happening. People need to start questioning. And again, not maybe it's traditions for you and it's something else for other people. But I think it's important.
Absolutely. Well, and I think also, so for us, we ended up creating a tradition, which is lovely because then Christmas Eve we don't have to worry about food because we were going back and forth, and there was times that I was actually, because we were living in Denver, and so I was flying out to spend some time with my family, and you know, my husband couldn't come out here with me, and so, you know, there was actually like a Christmas. I was flying back. I think I was spending Christmas out here, and then he was going to come like the day after or something. It was one of those weird things, but you know, trying to save on flights so that you're not spending that much money, and you know, it doesn't have to be the day, right?
Yeah.
And so there was one Christmas Eve, he was home by himself and we were out here. And so he ended up, you know, like not wanting to cook anything. So he went out to Chinese food because it's the only thing that's open.
Right.
And, you know, of course it's funny because that's like ties into A Christmas Story, the movie. And we're like, well, what an interesting like little tradition that would be. So we actually, the next year, we were all back in Denver together, and, you know, we kept things really small because it was just the three of us. And so we're like, well, let's just go out to, you know, make this our tradition. And so now we've brought that with us. And so with my in-laws and my son and his wife, that's what we do Christmas Eve. But it's like, we don't have the stress of having to cook all that food.
Right.
Whereas I remember growing up, we do
Oh my gosh.
really big
the whole
Christmas
thing.
Eve.
Yes.
You know, you have like the food, and then you're trying to do special decorations and opening the one present, and then going to midnight mass, and it was like, you know, 3 or 4 days of like exhaustion
Totally.
of
Yeah.
all of the hoops.
Yeah.
And then
And
you're
I-
sleeping through everyone enjoying their Christmas.
Well,
Yeah.
and that was me as a, you know, teenager,
Yeah.
and I was stressed as a teenager.
Yeah.
So I think I bucked against a lot of, you know, things of that nature. It's like, no, let's not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's been kind of one of those things of when you do create your own traditions, you do assess what the holidays mean to you, then, you know, you can kind of unplug some of that stress and anxiety. And, you know, also, I think we get built up in our mind so much of people's expectations,
Yeah.
and often it's our own expectations that's just tripping us
Yes.
I love that
blame it.
saying. Keep it simple, sweetie.
Yes, I've heard it differently.
Yeah.
Same sentiment.
Both ways.
Well, and even
Yeah.
in our last episode, Patty Lynn, you mentioned, you know, you did gratitude cards, and I've done New Year's.
Oh, yeah.
And it like takes the stress out of, oh, I'm trying to send Christmas cards and beating myself up over this Christmas card that everyone's
Right.
expecting to get, and you're like, no one cares.
They'll get it at New Year's.
They'll
It'll
get
be
a New
just as
Year's
good.
or a Great
Yeah.
Bowl, whatever it is. So it's like figuring out that piece. So
I love that. All right. We clearly could talk about this quite a while. I mean, there's just so
What's
much.
stress and
that goes into
anxiety.
this.
What's
Yeah.
interesting is we all talked about solely holiday stress. None of us really talked about the fact that now we're adding that too on top of our daily stress and anxiety that
True.
for some of us are pretty significant.
And
But this is truly kind of the
And some people have busy seasons.
Mhm.
So if this is end of year busy season,
Yeah.
And that adds to it too,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. I think my final thought is just like with the keep the reason, whatever your reason for the season, focus, right?
Mhm.
So just keeping that your activities and energy towards your values and priorities, and focus on relationships and those kind of things. And then with the stress from everyday life as well as
Yeah.
holiday stress, how do you manage that? And that's a whole nother. I mean, we could have gone that direction on this episode.
100%
Really, like,
easily,
what are
yeah.
the ways you manage stress, and how can you get help with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lots of ways to.
Yeah. I think
dissect
it's
this.
like every other time of year too. It's being true to yourself. Like really
Yeah.
listening to what you want, what you enjoy, listening to those around you, and just recognizing that there are certain things that you can also just say no to. Right? And that is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think there's just a lot of extra pressure during the holidays from family and external things to do everything. And it's just not realistic. It's just not. Like even what we're saying too with your everyday, you still have everyday life and all the stuff, the extra new stuff and plays and recitals and everything else that happens that time of year. It's okay to say no.
Just say it.
Just say no.
I do miss the recitals.
Yeah, it's true. When you get
It's
older
funny, I
too,
do
and your
miss
kids
it.
are older, you're like,
Yep.
this does actually pass. This too shall pass,
Yeah.
right? And you miss it.
Okay.
Any other thoughts?
No, I think we exhausted the pretty good.
Yeah. All right.
About it.
So thank you for joining us again. We hope you have a fantastic, happy new year. Have a great holiday season. And of course, if you're watching from YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. Join us in our Facebook group. We would love to see you there. And if you have any questions, let us know. Until next time, bye.
Bye.